Gazan authorities issue impending water crisis warning. Ukraine appoints Major General Andriy Natov as Chief of General Staff. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching World Today with me, Mona Priya. Authorities in Gaza issued a warning on Sunday regarding an impending and serious water crisis that may result in widespread thirst. This was further exacerbated by Israel's ongoing closure of border crossings and its threats to sever the water supply. In a statement, the Gaza municipality stated the Makorot water line supplies Gaza City with approximately 70% of its daily water needs. If the water supply from this line is cut off, it could lead to a major water shortage, threatening the lives of civilians and causing a deterioration in public health with the potential spread of diseases. Makorot, an Israeli water company, is one of the primary sources of water for the Gaza Strip. The company operates under complete Israeli control, making it a key leverage point in the ongoing blockade of Gaza. The closure and Israel's cutting of electricity supply to Gaza have led to the shutdown of essential water and sewage treatment facilities, worsening the already dire humanitarian conditions in the territory. Israeli officials have repeatedly threatened to sever both electricity and water supply to Gaza as a method of exerting pressure on the Palestinian group Hamas. Truce negotiations were ongoing between Hamas and Israel with Egyptian mediators as deep divisions persist between the two sides over the terms of a fragile Gaza ceasefire. Mediated by Qatar, Egypt and the United States, the initial phase of the ceasefire took effect on 19th January, largely halting more than 15 months of fighting in Gaza. That phase ended in early March and both sides have been unable to agree on the next stage of the ceasefire in the Palestinian territory. Israel's leader Benjamin Netanyahu's office said a negotiating team was meeting in Egypt with the senior Egyptian officials to discuss the issue of hostages. He directed them to base the negotiations on a proposal by U.S. West Asia envoy Steve Witkoff that calls for the immediate release of 11 living hostages and half of the deceased captives. However, Witkoff said he had offered a bridge proposal that would see 5 living hostages, including Israeli-American Edan Alexander, released in return for freeing a substantial amount of Palestinian prisoners from Israeli jails. Hamas, meanwhile, said it was ready to free Alexander and the remains of 4 others. A Hamas official said its delegation held fruitful discussions with its Egyptian brothers, focusing on ways to advance the implementation of the ceasefire agreement in light of Hamas' acceptance of the updated American proposal. Despite the fragile truce still holding, near daily Israeli airstrikes on Gaza continue. Israeli military strikes have killed at least 15 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip over the past 24 hours. Gaza's health ministry said most of the latest deaths were on Saturday, when an Israeli airstrike killed 9 Palestinians, including 4 journalists, in the town of Beit Lahia in the northern Gaza Strip. At least 4 other Palestinians were killed in separate Israeli strikes on Saturday. An Israeli drone fired a missile at a group of Palestinians in the town of Jur el-Dik in central Gaza yesterday, killing a 62-year-old man and wounding several others. Later on that same day, an Israeli airstrike killed a Palestinian near the Zaytun neighborhood of Gaza City. Persistent bloodshed in Gaza underscores the fragility of the ceasefire agreement mediated by Qatar, Egypt and the United States. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday appointed Major General Andriy Natov as Ukraine's Chief of the General Staff as Kiev seeks to speed up army reform. A decree published on the presidential website said a Deputy Chief of Staff, Natov, would replace Lieutenant General Barhilevich. Natov has 27 years of military experience, having risen through the ranks from Marines brigade commander to leading troops in the eastern Donetsk region. In a statement, Defense Minister Rustem Umerov said Barilevich would now oversee military standards and strengthen discipline in the army. With the war against Russia in its fourth year, Ukraine is seeking to restructure and strengthen its military as it fights the much bigger enemy. And in another development, United States officials have expressed optimism that a Ukraine-Russia ceasefire deal could be reached in weeks, as President Donald Trump and Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin are expected to discuss a possible truce. The U.S. proposed a halt in fighting in the three-year war after talks in Saudi Arabia, which Kyiv accepted. Washington and Kyiv's European allies are pressing Moscow to also accept the proposal. Putin, however, has given no clear answer, instead listing a string of conditions and raising serious questions over the proposal. Trump's envoy for the conflict, Steve Witkoff, said he believes the two presidents are going to have a really good and positive discussion this week. He added Trump really expects some sort of deal will be reached in the coming weeks. Witkoff, however, described future peace talks as very complicated, listing a string of challenging topics such as an end to fighting along a 2,000-kilometer border and the Black Sea port access. Officials hinted strongly that Ukraine will likely have to make some major concessions if a deal is to be reached. Trump's national security advisor Michael Waltz suggested that Ukraine would likely have to both cede some territory to the Russians and give up any aspirations to NATO membership in the foreseeable future. U.S. President Donald Trump said he was being sarcastic when he pledged to end the war between Ukraine and Russia in 24 hours. During an interview with U.S. news organization that was broadcast on Sunday, Trump was questioned about his campaign assertion to conclude the war in under a day.
Well, I was being a little bit sarcastic when I said that. What I really mean is I'd like to get it settled. And I think I'll be successful. Bad news for this world because so many people are dying, but I think he's going to agree. I really do. I think I know him pretty well, and I think he's going to agree.
Trump is trying to win Putin's support for a 30-day ceasefire proposal that Ukraine accepted last week. Meanwhile, both sides continued trading heavy aerial strikes through the weekend, and Russia moved closer to ejecting Ukrainian forces from their months-old foothold in the western Russian region of Kursk. United States officials have vowed further strikes in Yemen, while Iran-backed Houthi group said it attacked a U.S. aircraft carrier group in the Red Sea and will target American commercial vessels. This is following the first U.S. strikes on Yemen under President Donald Trump, which have killed at least 53 so far. The Houthi Health Ministry said the U.S. strikes in capital Sana'a, as well as Sa'ada, Al-Baida and Radah, killed mostly women and children. The airstrikes are the biggest U.S. military operation in West Asia since President Trump took office in January. One U.S. official said the campaign might continue for weeks. The Houthi movement's political bureau described the attacks as a war crime, while Russia urged Washington to cease the strikes. The Houthi group said in response to the aggression, the armed forces conducted a military operation targeting the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Harry Truman and its accompanying warships. The group noted that it launched 18 missiles and a drone at the American vessels. Its leader, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, said his fighters would target U.S. ships in the Red Sea as long as the U.S. continues its attacks on Yemen. He also called for 1 million Yemenis to march on Monday in defiance. More than 200 alleged members of a Venezuelan gang have been deported by the United States and sent to El Salvador, where they were taken to a high-security prison. In a proclamation published on Saturday, U.S. President Donald Trump invoked the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to rapidly deport alleged members of the Tren de Aragua, a criminal organization that has been linked to kidnapping, extortion and contract killings. A federal judge in Washington, D.C. blocked the application of the law for 14 days, saying the statute refers to hostile acts perpetrated by another country that commensurate to war. Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele said that 238 alleged members of the Venezuelan gang had arrived in his country yesterday and were transferred to the Terrorism Confinement Center, a mega prison that can hold up to 40,000 inmates for a one-year period that could be renewed. The timing of when the flights carrying the alleged gang members departed the U.S. and arrived in El Salvador remained unclear. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg issued the order blocking the use of the Alien Enemies Act during a hearing on Saturday evening. In the hearing, Boasberg said any flights carrying migrants processed under the law should return to the U.S. Coming up next, Turkey calls on EU to unconditionally lift Syrian sanctions. The United Kingdom's Labour government will set out details of how it plans to slash red tape to boost business as it struggles to deliver growth 9 months after winning power. The Finance Ministry said regulators would be summoned to the Prime Minister's Downing Street office today to hear Chancellor Rachel Reeves announce her action plan to deliver on the pledge to cut the administrative cost of regulation on business by a quarter. The radical plan would cut costly red tape, such as the hundreds of pages of guidance on protecting bat habitats, which go far beyond legal requirements. It is referring to the £100 million spent on a bat tunnel by the company building Britain's new high-speed HS2 train line. The number of regulators will also be cut under Reeves' plan, saving businesses billions of pounds. Labour ousted former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative government in a landslide election victory last July, but has seen its popularity ratings fall during a bumpy start. It is under pressure to deliver on its election promise to kickstart economic growth while keeping prices under control amid a prolonged cost of living crisis. Turkey has called on the European Union to unconditionally lift sanctions on Syria ahead of an international aid conference in Brussels, to which the war-torn country's new authorities have been invited. Ankara, allied with Syria's new rulers who ousted President Bashar al-Assad and took power in December, views such a step as necessary for a peaceful transition in the country. Turkey's foreign ministry said Syria's economic security is essential for the country's stability and security, adding that economic opportunities and jobs need to be created. It noted that the sanctions must be lifted unconditionally and for an indeterminate period. The European Union today will host the 9th International Conference in support of Syria. The event aims to raise international support for Syria's transition and recovery after more than 13 years of civil war. The European bloc on 24th February already announced an easing of sanctions on Syria's energy, transport and banking sectors to relieve some of the challenges facing Ahmad al-Sharaa, Syria's interim president. But Europe and other powers remain wary over what direction Sharaa's Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group may take Syria. Separatist forces drove a vehicle laden with explosives into a paramilitary convoy, killing at least 5 in southwestern Pakistan yesterday. Now, officials reported that the incident occurred just days after the same group had hijacked a train and taken hostages for a duration of 36 hours. The Baloch Liberation Army, BLA, claimed responsibility for the attack in the district of Noshki in the restive province of Balochistan. Senior Superintendent of Police for Noshki District, Hashim Momand, said more than 30 paramilitary force members were also wounded. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, in a statement, condemned the attack, which came as Pakistan deals with a growing security crisis in its regions bordering Afghanistan. The BLA on Tuesday took over the Jafar Express in a remote mountain pass in Balochistan province, blowing up train tracks in an attack that killed 31 soldiers and civilians. A fire tore through an overcrowded nightclub packed with mostly young people in North Macedonia, killing 59 people after what was apparently on-stage fireworks at a hip-hop concert set the venue ablaze. More than 20 people were under investigation over the blaze, 15 of whom were already in police custody. Now, the blaze started in the club Pulse in eastern town of Kochani, which was packed with mostly young fans attending a concert by a popular hip-hop duo called D&K. Officials said about 155 people injured in the inferno were taken to hospitals across the country, with 22 of them in critical condition. Interior Minister Pans Tokovsky said more than 20 of the injured and 3 of the dead were minors. He added that the fire was probably caused by pyrotechnic devices used for lightning effects at the concert. Now, he explained that sparks caught the ceiling, which was made of easily flammable material, after which the fire rapidly spread across the whole discotheque, creating thick smoke. Tokovsky also said the authorities were investigating whether corruption and bribery were linked to the deadly nightclub fire. Prime Minister Hristian Mikoski said the club had falsified its license and that all involved will face responsibility. He said inspectors will check all licenses for buildings in the country, and he is convinced that the authorities will find hundreds that were issued illegally. 2 ski mountaineers were in critical condition after being struck by an avalanche near Forcella Ghiau in the Italian Dolomites. The slide occurred around 1 p.m. local time, involving 3 skiers. A 4th skier, who was unharmed in the incident, raised the alarm. Rescuers quickly located a 51-year-old man from Conegliano, Treviso, buried by snow but rapidly freed by his companion. He was hospitalized in Pieve di Cadore and treated for hypothermia and an ankle injury. 2 other skiers were swept further downhill. A 38-year-old man, whose residence is currently unknown, was located beneath 2 meters of snow. Rescuers performed emergency resuscitation before transporting him by helicopter to Mestre Hospital in critical condition. Recovery of the 3rd skier, a 40-year-old woman from Conegliano, proved difficult as she was buried over 3 meters deep. She was eventually found after a search dog pinpointed her location, allowing rescuers to free her. She was airlifted to Treviso Hospital, also in extremely critical condition. Still to come in sports, Newcastle ends a 70-year trophy drought by clinching Carabao Cup. Newcastle United ended a 70-year domestic trophy drought as they beat holders Liverpool 2-1 to win the League Cup, with goals in each half by Dan Burn and Alexander Isak, sparking a Geordie party at Wembley Stadium on Sunday. Local hero Byrne gave Newcastle a deserved lead in the 45th minute when the defender thumped in a header from a corner. Roared on by a sea of fans clad in black and white, Newcastle took complete control of the match 7 minutes after the break when Swedish forward Isak swept a shot past Liverpool keeper Kaumin Keller. Premier League leaders Liverpool finally mustered a response when Federico Chiesa halved the deficit in stoppage time, but the damage was done and the day belonged to Eddie Howe's Newcastle, who won the club's first domestic trophy since 1955. Newcastle were beaten 2 years ago in the League Cup final by Manchester United, but from the start on Sunday, they looked like a team determined to stamp their name in the city's folklore as they plugged into the energy from their fans. Liverpool, on the other hand, looked flat and appeared to be suffering a Champions League hangover after being knocked out of Europe by Paris Saint-Germain on penalties on Tuesday. Chelsea's challenge for a place in next season's Champions League faltered in a toothless 1-0 defeat at Arsenal on Sunday as Mikel Merino scored the only goal throughout the match at the Emirates. Now, Chelsea badly missed the presence of the absent Cole Palmer due to injury as they meekly surrendered to a damaging defeat for their hopes of a top-4 finish.
Arsenal have struggled badly for goals since the loss of Kai Havertz to a season-ending injury forced midfielder Mourinho into a makeshift centre-forward role. The Spanish international proved the match winner from a corner as he looped a header from Martin Odegaard's delivery inside the far post on 20 minutes. Chelsea's Robert Sanchez made a brilliant stop to prevent Mourinho doubling Arsenal's lead with the best effort of the second half. But the game petered out with little goalmouth action as a limp performance will do little to quieten the critics of Maresca's style of play among the Chelsea support. With the result, Arsenal pulled clear in second place and to within 12 points of runaway leaders Liverpool. The Blues remain in fourth for now, but have 5 sides from fifth place Manchester City to Aston Villa in ninth within 4 points of Enzo Maresca's men.
And in another match, Manchester United extended their unbeaten run in open play to 7 games with a comfortable victory at seemingly doomed Leicester.
Rasmus Højlund ended a 21-game goal drought by firing United in front on 28 minutes. Alejandro Garnacho was made to wait for his first goal since November as the Argentine was flagged offside early in the second half. Garnacho, though, was not to be denied with a snapshot that Mats Hermansen should have kept out. Bruno Fernandes unsurprisingly set the seal on United's win with a stunning strike from the edge of the box for his 7th goal in 7 games. United have won all 4 meetings against Leicester this season, 2 of which the Fox's current boss, Ruud van Nistelrooy, was in interim charge of the Red Devils. But the Dutchman has not had the same impact as the King Power. Leicester have lost 13 of their last 14 league games to fall 9 points adrift of safety. Van Nistelrooy's men also set an unwanted record of becoming the first Premier League side to go 7 home games without scoring.
And on to tennis. Britain's Jack Draper thrashed Denmark's Holger Rune 6-2, 6-2 to collect the biggest title of his career at Indian Wells on Sunday, with a place in the top 10 assured for the first time.
Draper has suffered with a lingering hip issue this year, but looked fine as he zipped round the court with ease on Sunday, firing 21 winners to cap a superb week in the California desert. Playing in his 4th Masters 1000 final, Rune had the benefit of experience, but could never find his rhythm as he made 7 winners against 18 unforced errors. Playing in his first 1000 level final, Draper bludgeoned his opponent with 7 aces in the first set, having hit a forehand winner to break in the first game and outfoxed Rune at the net in the third to go up another break. The Dane's frustrations boiled over early in the second set, where he shouted at his team before dropping serve in the first game. He handed Draper another break in the penultimate game with a backhand shot that he sent wide. Draper fired a booming forehand shot across the net to clinch the match and smiled towards the stands before kneeling on court with his fists thrust
thrust into the air in celebration. He is the first Briton to win the title since Cameron Norrie in 2021 and is expected to be ranked 7th with this win.
Meanwhile, in the women's draw, Russian teenager Mira Andreeva fought back to overcome world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka 2-6, 6-4, 6-3 in the Indian Wells finals on Sunday, winning a second WTA 1000 level event in a row to keep her charmed year on track.
Top seed Sabalenka pulled herself out of a slump to bring some of her best tennis to the California desert this year and got off to a hot start on Sunday, but her form unraveled as the match wore on and she was left to rue missed opportunities. The win on Sunday sees Andreeva continue her meteoric rise after she partnered with coach Conchita Martinez a year ago as she recorded her 5th straight win over a top 10 player. The 17-year-old Andreeva, the youngest women's champion at the tournament since Serena Williams in 1999, found her form midway through the match and crumpled to the ground in celebration after closing it out with a forehand winner. Former world number 2 Martinez guided Andreeva into the French Open semi-finals last year and helped steer her into the world's top 10 with her triumph in Dubai last month.
And to Formula One, McLaren's Lando Norris swept to victory in a wet and wild Australian Grand Prix on Sunday, holding off defending champion Max Verstappen in a white-knuckle finish to a Formula One season opener littered with crashes and safety cars. Mercedes' George Russell was third on the slippery Albert Park circuit, where only 14 of the 20 cars finished in the treacherous conditions.
Norris, the pre-season favourite for the driver's title, started the Formula One season as he finished the last at Abu Dhabi with victory from pole. The win ended Verstappen's long run at the top of the championship standings dating back to May 2022. Lewis Hamilton's debut for Ferrari proved a damp squib, with the Briton finishing 10th, 2 places behind teammate Charles Leclerc. But it was an encouraging day for Williams, with Alex Albon finishing 4th after Mercedes' 18-year-old rookie Andrea Kimi Antonelli was demoted to 5th due to a 5-second penalty for an unsafe release from the pit. The front three's order held until lap 16, when Verstappen locked a front brake and veered wide to allow Norris' teammate Oscar Piastri to snatch back second. Verstappen had a last crack at reeling in Norris in the later stages of the race. The Briton showed great composure to hold the relentless Dutchman at bay and land the first blow in the championship ahead of round 2 in China.
Ducati's red-hot Marc Marquez won the Argentina Grand Prix on Sunday after trailing his brother Alex for much of the race, as the pair finished in the top 2 yet again, with VR46 Racing's Franco Morbidelli having come up on 3rd place.
Just as in the season-opening Grand Prix in Thailand, pole sitter Marc had yet another perfect weekend, having also won Saturday's sprint to stay top of the MotoGP Riders' Championship standings with his 90th win across all classes. On his return to Argentina for the first time since 2019, Marc had virtually untouchable barring one error, which allowed Alex to move up before the elder sibling ruthlessly snatched first place again and never looked back. MotoGP did not have 2 brothers finishing 1st and 2nd for 76 years, but the Marquez brothers have now achieved the feat twice within a fortnight. Victory also saw Marc record his 90th win across all classes to equal the late, great Angel Nieto, and the Spaniard wore a racing wreath with the words "Gracias, Angel," pointing up to the heavens.
And that's it for today. In our top story, Gazan authorities issue impending water crisis warning. I'm Mohana Priya, Malaysia Madani. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for your company.